My name is Laurel McKenna. I am 32 years old and I overheard my mother call me stupid in front of our entire family, weeks before they tried to stage my sister's engagement party at my own country house without asking. It happened on a Sunday at Briar and Barley, the gastropub in town. I had come late from a double shift, smelling like coffee and sanitizer, cheeks windburned from the Hudson Valley air. I pushed open the door just as the toast began. Mom, Marlene, lifted her flute and smiled with her teeth, not her eyes. Here's to smart choices, she said, turning to Kelsey, my golden child sister. And to leaving dumb ones behind. The table laughed. My name wasn't spoken, but everyone glanced at me. If you're watching this, drop a comment, hit like and subscribe. Because humiliation in your own hometown tastes like lemon pith and old beer. I tried to swallow the heat in my throat. Dad, Rick, checked sports scores instead of meeting my eyes. Kelsey dabbed gloss and whispered to her fiancé, Trevor, a financial advisor who wore success like a cologne. Someone clinked a fork against glass. Mom leaned closer, voice low. Laurel, please don't bring negative energy. We're celebrating people who make plans. The word plans scraped me raw because I had one. The little cedar-sided place I'd bought north of Kingston, a fixer with a creek and a porch that smelled like rain. I scrubbed shifts, learned drywall on YouTube, hauled stones until my hands blistered. That house was my plan. I can still see the first night I slept there. A coil mattress on the floor, thunder rolling in the hills, the scent of wet pine drifting through the screen. I ate cold noodles from the container and cried into a paper napkin, not from sadness but relief that a door finally locked from the inside. After the toast, Mom hugged me with one arm. We'll talk about your situation later, she murmured, eyes skating past me to Kelsey's ring. Anyway, great news. Kelsey wants an outdoor party. Country aesthetic. We'll use your place, it's perfect. Pie place, I said. You didn't ask. She laughed like I'd told a joke. Family doesn't need permission. The laugh followed me into the parking lot like a mosquito. 2 days later, a group text lit my phone. Engagement weekend at Laurel's Lodge. There were Pinterest boards, rental quotes, a map to my driveway. Kelsey assigned rooms in my house like she was dealing cards. Trevor asked about valet capacity, as if my gravel lane were a ballroom entrance. Dad sent a thumbs up. Mom wrote, Laurel will be reasonable. Reasonable. Like I was furniture. The grief came first. Thick tarry. I folded dish towels and felt the old ache in my ribs, being 12 at the kitchen island while Mom told Aunt Dee, Laurel isn't academic. Is helpful. The fridge hummed. The lemon cleaner stung my nose. I pressed my palms flat so I wouldn't tremble. Then the cold came. Not rage. Something cleaner. I drove to the hardware store in Phoenicia, bought reinforced deadbolts, a Wi-Fi camera and a no-nonsense sign. Private property, no events. The clerk, a woman with gray paint on her knuckles, bagged the items and said, good fences. That night I changed every lock. The click sounded like a new language, one where I finally conjugated no correctly. Aunt Jo called after midnight. Her voice was soft, hoarse from cigarettes. Honey, they're steamrolling you. Want me there the day of? Yes, I said. Please. I could smell her old Chevy in my mind. Dust, lavender, a stubborn dignity. On Friday the group text dinged all morning. Caterer at 3. Tent at 4. Guests at 6. I brewed strong coffee and set my phone face down. The creek whispered. The porch boards warmed in a stripe of sun. At 2:57 p.m. tires crackled on my gravel. A white van nosed up beside the lilacs, doors sliding open, men in black shirts hoisting silver chafers toward my yard. I stepped onto the porch and lifted the new key in the air, metal flashing like a promise. Turn around, I called. This house is closed. The men froze, but behind them another car was rolling in. The second car crunched to a stop behind the catering van, blocking it in. Silver Lexus. Mom's. The tinted window slid down and her face appeared, polished and smiling like this was all perfectly normal. Laurel, honey, she called, stepping out in heels that sank into my gravel. We told them to set up in the back. The tent looks better by the creek. I stayed on the porch, key still in my hand. No one's setting up here. Her smile froze, just a hairline crack, then reformed. Don't be dramatic. This is family. Your sister deserves a celebration. Behind her, Kelsey emerged, the engagement ring throwing shards of sunlight. Trevor followed, phone in hand like he was already live-streaming his future in-law's perfect countryside party. The caterers looked at me uncertainly. I could almost taste the decision weighing in the air, the smell of roasted garlic and herbs drifting from their warming pans, mixing with the cool scent of pine. "This isn't happening," I repeated. "This is my house." Kelsey rolled her eyes. "God, Laurel, it's one party. You don't even use this place right. You could at least make it useful for once." Her words slammed into me like the memory of sophomore year, standing in the school auditorium. I had auditioned for the spring play, voice shaking, while Kelsey whispered to her friends in the front row, "She thinks she's talented. Watch her choke." The laughter still rings in my ears. Trevor gave me a patronizing smile. "Come on, Laurel. You want your family to look bad? Guests are already on their way." Mom snapped her fingers at the caterers. "Go on. She'll calm down." But I stepped down the porch steps, every heartbeat hammering into my ribs. "If one tray crosses that line," I pointed to the edge of my porch, "I'll call the sheriff. And you'll all be trespassing." That's when Dad's truck pulled in, dust curling behind it. He climbed out slow, adjusting his ball cap. He didn't even look at me. He just said, "Unload by the lilacs. Laurel will come around." His certainty made something snap inside me. 5 years ago, when I told him I wanted to buy a fixer, he'd laughed, beer can tipping against his knee. "You? With what money? You'll be begging your sister to take you in by Christmas." I'd sat frozen in the den, the smell of his aftershave thick, the TV flickering shadows across his sneer. Now here he was, proving himself right by force. But not this time. I strode past him, grabbed the nearest catering tray and set it firmly back in the van. "This is private property," I said, my voice steady. "No one goes inside. No one sets up. Not tonight. Not ever." For a moment, silence. Even the creek seemed to hush. Then Mom hissed, voice sharp as broken glass. "You ungrateful child. We give you everything." I barked out a laugh. "Everything? You called me stupid in front of the whole family. You used me for free space. And now you're here because you thought I wouldn't fight back." Their stares tightened, brittle and venomous. The caterers hesitated, then quietly reloaded their trays, eyes down. One muttered, "Sorry, ma'am," before sliding the van door shut. For a flicker of a second, triumph surged. I thought maybe, just maybe, I'd stopped them. But then Kelsey stepped forward, phone flashing in her manicured hand. "Fine," she said, her voice sugar-sweet. "If you won't let us in, we'll make sure everyone knows how insane you've gotten." She raised the camera, pointing it straight at my face. And I realized, the battle for my house wasn't just in the driveway anymore. It was about to go public. The phone's little red light blinked, and suddenly I wasn't just standing on my gravel driveway. I was on stage again. Kelsey angled the camera at me, her voice pitched to a faux concerned lilt. "This is my sister Laurel," she announced. "We're just trying to celebrate love, and well, you can see for yourself. She's locking us out." Trevor chimed in, his grin shark-like. "Imagine ruining your own sister's engagement party. Sad." The old humiliation roared back. I was 20 again, standing in the kitchen with a basket of laundry when Mom sighed to Aunt Dee on speakerphone. "Laurel's never been the smart one. At least we have Kelsey." I'd stood frozen, clutching a shirt that still smelled of detergent, my face burning as the women's laughter rattled through the receiver. Now the same performance was happening, but with an audience of hundreds who would watch through Kelsey's curated lens. I drew in a slow breath, grounding myself in the smell of pine needles, the grit of gravel under my shoes. "Delete it," I said quietly. Kelsey smirked. "Or what? You'll call the sheriff? That'll look great on camera." Behind her, Dad folded his arms. "She's always been unstable," he muttered, just loud enough for the phone's mic to catch. Mom gasped theatrically. "Rick, don't say that. She's just confused." Then, lowering her tone, "Laurel, for once in your life, stop making this about you." The words were so rehearsed that I felt the rage rise clean and cold. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my own phone, the spare with the upgraded camera. I tapped record, lifted it to eye level and spoke. "This is my property. They didn't ask. They didn't even tell me. They tried to take over my home for a party I never agreed to." The shift was instant. Kelsey's smirk faltered just slightly. Trevor hissed, "Turn it off." "No," I said, voice steady. "You wanted an audience? Let's give them both sides." Aunt Jo's Chevy rumbled up the drive just then, dust curling around her tires. She swung her door open, her wiry frame stepping out, a Marlboro dangling from her fingers. She scanned the standoff, eyes sharp. "What's all this circus?" she asked, her voice carrying. Mom's tone turned sugary. "Joe, thank God you're here." "Laurels. Don't." Aunt Jo's voice cracked like a whip. "I know exactly what's happening. You're bulldozing her like you always do." Her words hit me like a hand on my shoulder, steadying me. Kelsey lowered her phone just a fraction. "Aunt Jo, it's just a party." "No," Joe snapped. "It's theft. You didn't build this house, Laurel did. You didn't scrub dishes until your skin cracked, Laurel did. And you sure as hell don't get to film her like she's crazy." For a second I thought the ground itself might split. The tension was so thick I could hear nothing but the pounding of my heart. Trevor cleared his throat, his confident smile twitching. "Well, maybe we should take this elsewhere." "Damn right you should," Joe cut in. She flicked her cigarette onto the gravel and ground it out with her boot. "Or I'll call the sheriff myself." Kelsey's camera wavered. Her facade of control thinned. "You're making a mistake, Laurel," she hissed. "You think siding with Joe will save you? Will ruin you. Will make sure no one in this family talks to you again." I met her eyes, calm as ice. "Then maybe I'm finally free." But even as I said it, another car door slammed behind me. I turned, stomach tightening, because the last person I wanted to see had just arrived. It was my brother Shane. The prodigal, the drifter, the one who never picked sides. His beat-up Ford wheezed to a stop, exhaust puffing into the tense air. He climbed out in faded jeans, a leather jacket that smelled of gasoline even from a distance, and those eyes, shifty, unreadable. For a second hope sparked. Maybe Shane would take my side. Maybe he would remember those nights when we were kids, sneaking Pop-Tarts at midnight while Mom ranted about money in the other room. But then he smirked at me, not kindly, like he'd walked into free entertainment. "So this is the show," he drawled. "Figures it'd be at your place, Laurel." My heart sank. Mom swooped toward him like a politician on stage. "Shane, thank God. Talk sense into her. She's being difficult. Your sister is refusing to host Kelsey's party." He raised an eyebrow. "She said no? And you all showed up anyway?" "Yes," I snapped. "That's exactly what they did." Kelsey jumped in, her phone now angled down but still recording. "Don't twist it. We just thought she'd be generous for once." Generous. The word rattled me because I remembered being 14, handing Shane my babysitting money so he could buy gas to drive to a concert. He'd hugged me quick, said he owed me. He never paid me back. Shane glanced at me, then at the crowd of family circling like wolves. "Well, I mean, she does have the space. And it's just one night." The final flicker of hope in me dimmed out. He wasn't here to defend me, he was here to keep the peace at my expense. As always. Aunt Jo stepped forward, voice sharp. "Don't you dare, Shane. You know damn well they've bled her dry her whole life. You gonna help them now too?" He shrugged. "I'm just saying, why make this bigger than it has to be?" The air grew heavier, the smell of exhaust mixing with garlic from the caterer's van and Aunt Jo's lingering cigarette smoke. My pulse throbbed in my temples. I lifted my phone again, recording. "Everyone watching this should know. My family is trying to take over my house against my will. They called me dumb, useless, and now they want to use the only thing I built on my own." Mom lunged forward, hand outstretched. "Turn that off." I stepped back. "No. You don't get to control the story anymore." The caterers, clearly rattled, whispered among themselves. One finally muttered, "We're leaving. This feels bad." They started backing their van down the driveway, tires spitting gravel. For a brief moment, relief pulsed through me. At least the outsider saw the truth. But Mom's face twisted, her mask slipping. "Laurel, you are a disgrace. You think this little shack makes you powerful? You'll always be the stupid one. You can't stop us." Her words stung, sharper than I wanted to admit. The sting pulled me back to a memory, sitting at the kitchen table at 9 years old, trying to finish math homework while Mom hovered over Kelsey's science project, cooing, "You're the bright one, baby." My eraser smeared numbers until the page tore. I swallowed hard. "Maybe I'm not bright in your eyes, but I'm done being your doormat." Shane sighed, muttering, "Drama, drama." Aunt Jo stepped closer to me, her hand brushing my arm, grounding me. "Don't cave, honey. They'll walk all over you." I nodded, strength flooding back. Just then, Kelsey's phone chimed with a new notification. She glanced at the screen, smirk curling again. "Perfect timing," she said. "Guests are arriving early. They'll see everything for themselves." Her words chilled me. Because if cars started pulling in now, they'd believe whatever version of the story Kelsey had already streamed. And right on cue, headlights appeared at the end of my gravel drive. The headlights carved through the dusk, beams sweeping over the gravel and bouncing off the porch rails. A convoy of cars, sleek sedans, a rented shuttle, even a limo, rolled slowly down my narrow driveway like invaders. Laughter spilled out before engines even cut, the kind of champagne-laced chatter that belonged to polished lawns and chandeliers, not my quiet country home. My throat tightened. If all those guests poured out now, they'd see me against my own family, and Kelsey's livestream would paint me as the villain. "Perfect," Kelsey whispered to her phone, lips curling into a grin. "Showtime." The first door opened and a woman in a gold dress stepped out, heels crunching the gravel. She blinked at the standoff, me on the porch with Aunt Jo, Mom and Dad stiff in the driveway, Kelsey's camera catching every angle. "What's going on?" she asked, confusion shading her smile. Mom immediately slipped into hostess mode. "Just a small misunderstanding," she sang. "Family nerves. Please head around back, we'll get the tent up shortly." She gestured toward the creek like it was hers to offer. I stepped down one stair. "No. There is no party here. This is private property." The woman hesitated, eyes darting between us. Then more doors opened. Laughter turned to whispers. Guests gathered, phones coming out like vultures. Panic threatened to claw through me, but Aunt Jo's hand pressed firmly into my back. "Stand tall, honey," she muttered. "Don't let them steal your voice." I drew in a breath, the night air smelling of lilacs and exhaust. "Everyone here needs to know the truth," I said, raising my phone so its red light gleamed. "They did not ask me. They are trespassing. This party is not welcome here." Gasps rippled. A few guests exchanged uneasy looks. One older man cleared his throat. "Marlene, is this true?" Mom's smile tightened, a hairline crack across porcelain. "Of course not," she said smoothly. Laurel gets confused. She didn't understand how much this means to her sister. Kelsey zoomed her phone closer to my face, narrating like a documentary villain. "See? She's unraveling in front of everyone." Something in me broke free then, not weak, not desperate, but clear and sharp. I descended the porch fully, gravel crunching under my boots. "Confused," I said, voice steady. "Let me be clear. I bought this house with my own work. I bled for it. They've mocked me for years, called me stupid, useless. And now they want to use me again. But not tonight. Not ever again." The guests froze. Someone lowered their phone. A murmur rippled. Doubt, curiosity, even sympathy. Dad stepped forward, face flushed. "That's enough," he barked. "You're embarrassing us." I met his glare, unflinching. "Good. Maybe you'll finally feel what I've carried my whole life." For a long, tense beat, the driveway was silent except for the creek bubbling in the dark. Then Aunt Jo broke it, her gravelly voice cutting through like a gavel. "Y'all heard her. This ain't your property. Take your champagne flutes and get the hell off her land." Gasps. Nervous laughter. The guests looked between Mom's tight smile and my raised phone, and I could see the scales tipping. Mom hissed, low and vicious. "You'll regret this, Laurel. You can't win against all of us." But in her eyes, for the first time, I saw a flicker of fear. Behind the line of cars, another set of headlights appeared. Red and blue lights strobing against the trees. The sheriff's cruiser. The sheriff's cruiser crept forward, red and blue lights washing across the lilacs, flashing over stunned faces and sequin dresses. The laughter died instantly. Gravel crunched under the tires as the vehicle came to a stop, the radio crackling faintly from inside. The driver's door opened and out stepped Sheriff Dalton, a broad man with a weathered face and a voice like gravel. He scanned the scene slowly, me standing with my phone raised, Aunt Jo planted like a guard dog at my side, my parents stiff and pale, Kelsey frozen mid-live stream, Trevor pocketing his phone too late. "What's going on here?" Dalton asked, his voice calm but edged. I swallowed hard, but my voice was clear. Sheriff, my family tried to throw a party here without permission. This is my house. I told them no. They refused to leave. Dalton looked at Mom first. Marlene. She plastered on her Sunday smile. It's just a family misunderstanding. Nothing law enforcement needs to worry about. He raised an eyebrow. Then why'd dispatch get a trespassing complaint from this address? The weight of his words hit the air like thunder. Guests shifted uncomfortably. Phones lowered. I felt my knees steady. That was me, I said firmly. And I stand by it. They are trespassing. The sheriff studied the driveway, the cars, the crowd of overdressed strangers on my gravel. He sighed, tipping his hat back. Ma'am's the property owner. You're all on her land without her consent. I'll give you 10 minutes to clear out. Gasps rippled. Mom's face crumpled, rage barely contained. You can't do this, Dalton. We're family. Family doesn't override property law, he replied evenly. Now start packing up. The guests dispersed in murmurs, confusion clouding their polished faces. Cars began to back out, headlights sweeping across the lilacs like fleeing ghosts. The rented limo sputtered down the lane. Within minutes, the convoy was retreating into the dark. Kelsey's camera was still in her hand, but her screen was black now. She hadn't dared to keep streaming. She glared at me, her voice dripping venom. You've humiliated us. We'll never forgive you for this. I stepped closer, my voice low but sharp enough for her to flinch. Good. Because I'll never forgive you either. Dad muttered under his breath something about shame, but his voice cracked. Mom clutched her pearls like they were rosary beads, her facade slipping. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one shrinking under their words. They were shrinking under mine. Aunt Jo exhaled smoke into the night, smirking. About damn time, kiddo. I almost laughed, but instead I felt the tears sting my eyes. Not from sadness. From release. When the last taillight disappeared, the sheriff gave me a nod. Call us again if they try something else. Then he left, leaving me in the soft chirp of crickets, the creek bubbling steady as a heartbeat. I leaned against the porch rail, breath shaking, the smell of lilac drifting over me. Aunt Jo patted my shoulder. You held your ground, Laurel. They'll think twice before pulling this stunt again. I believed her. For once I believed it. Days later, the family group chat went silent. No apologies, no explanations. Just silence, except from Aunt Jo, who sent me a text. Proud of you. Don't look back. I sat on the porch with my coffee, staring at the hills. The house felt heavier but safer, its walls holding not just my labor but my defiance. And in that silence I realized something. I hadn't just protected my home. I had finally protected myself. Have you ever faced betrayal? Share your story in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe. I looked out at the creek, its water glinting in the sun, and whispered into the quiet morning. I chose peace over toxic blood.